You are listening to the Level Up Your Gaming Podcast, episode 104, Character Progression. In today's episode, we talk about character progression. We discuss the problems with normal character progression. We then discuss how to evolve your character progression as you master your system of choice. If you'd like to participate in the discussion or leave us feedback, you can contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. If you like the content and want to hear more of the show, subscribing will ensure you don't miss an episode. New episodes come out almost every Wednesday. Also, please review, tell a friend about the podcast, or share with your gaming group. Now sit back and enjoy the episode. Welcome into the Level Up Your Gaming Podcast. My name is Aaron, and joining me virtually, because I've got things to do after we finish these recordings and stuff, Jared.
That was inspiring. And we're remote because I have shit to do around my house.
Sorry, I've got plans with some friends of my wife's, so we're going to like a comedy show and stuff today.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be a fun time. And then next week I'm in Florida, so that'll be fun. That'll be fun too. And then the week after that, we should be back to kind of a normal schedule. Again, we'll be filling up the hopper. We'll try to get that all done and connected, so everybody's got a good episode pool. We stop missing weeks here and there. One of our listeners was gracious enough to say that he might present another topic for us. So
hey, that'd be great.
So another thing that we can add to the hopper. And we're still trying to work out this interview with the other gaming group, trying to nail down a time. And we've got some interesting stuff coming up in June, July. I don't know if I can talk about it yet, but we'll
talk about it.
What?
Leave them in suspense.
Yeah.
Leave them in suspense.
Just letting you know, something's going to be coming up here, June, July, probably being released maybe around August, September, October time period, and you'll be very interested to hear that. So, just giving you a little preview of things to come, and how this podcast progresses, much like how your character progresses. Do you like that transition?
That was great.
If you could see Jared's face right now, Jared wants to go shoot himself.
Myself the belt. That was fantastic.
So Jared,
yes,
I want
talking about character progression.
Yes, I wanted to talk about character progression, and kind of progression in all senses of the word, not just I gain XP, I get more levels, blah blah blah. That's like the obvious, that's what you're going to do in a role playing game, but also we want to talk about deeper progression as well, which is, if I am leveling up, what am I trying to achieve as I level up? Because we've talked about how to make a better character at the start, but I want to know how we go from that better character that we create at the start and kind of mapping out the path in which the character grows. Does the character grow based upon the actions in the story, or does the character grow because you've planned a path for that character and that you're hell-bent on doing that? I want level 37 fireball. We've talked about that before. And is that my only drive and goal? And, story be damned, I'm going to develop that character. What are your thoughts on this, Jared? I just kind of want to get some musings.
This is it's a big conundrum for, I think a lot of storytellers out there. Fortunately for me, I have two very experienced players that more enjoy the story rather than my character can jump tall buildings and blow people up with the touch of a finger. The thing is, though, I've been in LARP. I've been one of those people who wanted to create a character, but this character was already far more experienced than I had. Right? I've wanted that in the past. Like, man, I really want that power. It's the storyteller's conundrum. Because you let's take an example, okay? you have a player who at the beginning, right at the beginning of your game, says, I'm going with more Punisher motif, right? The problem is that there's a misconnection, a disconnect in communication. When that player says, I want to play the Punisher motif, he's saying to you, I want to play the Punisher starting day one. He's going to have a lot of firearms. He's going to have a lot of strength. He's going to have stamina. He can damn near not die. He's a brilliant tactician. And we're talking about, a level 20 character at this point. When you say, oh, you want to play Punisher? That's cool. You're thinking of, okay, you're going to get a couple XP there. You're going to start molding. You're going to start getting a little darker every session. Oh, we leave no enemy alive. Stuff like that. And you're seeing a natural character progression, an actual, I should say, realistic character progression, when a lot of players are literally looking at you right now and saying, session 1, I'm playing the Punisher. Now, that's where it's a big thing, because it happens pretty often, that misinterpretation, or that miscommunication between the player. I've seen it 100 times. I've seen it in character backgrounds, right? Somebody writes a 75-page character background. It says they're a vampire from Rome and is over 2,000 years old. And yet he has pretty much the strength of like a kid. Where there's other players who are like, I was embraced yesterday because they've been playing that character for 3 years. They can take this vampire from Rome and spank him. Literally, just, I'm going to put you over my knee and spank you. Now, in the universe of in-game reality, a vampire that was embraced in 2017 is not going to spank a vampire who was embraced in 1 AD. He's got 2,000 years of experience, of power. He's been growing. The problem is that the level of experience doesn't match. Now, I'm going to say to you, everyone should go through a natural progression, right? The common. Here's your experience, spend it as you will. Here's your experience, spend it as you will. But how do you deal with those players that are saying, I want the Punisher now? One is aligning that expectation. Going to need a lot of experience to become Punisher. Probably going to have to be level 20. How are you, the player, going to make this happen? The character progress towards that ultimate goal. And are you, the player, going to be okay if this takes, 20 sessions to do before he becomes? And I mean the first Punisher. And the Punisher that sometimes had to back away from the fight might take 40 or 60 sessions before he becomes, I am the Punisher who never backs away from a fight. I get stabbed 73 times and still carry on with the battle. It might take that many sessions. Do you have the patience for it?
That's a good
Most
point.
people are going to be like, no, I don't. I absolutely do not have the patience to wait 60 sessions. Because it's unfortunate. We as storytellers in tabletop gaming are now in this world of RPG gaming, video console, console gaming, computer gaming, where I can go from a Billy Badass to or from like a weakling, let's take Assassin's Creed Valhalla, right? I'm playing it right now, loving it. Got to Britain, I'm getting, it takes me a while to kill wolves and boars and shit. I gotta think through it. I accidentally went on one mission that takes me to freaking Ireland. I end up beating all of Ireland. I come back and I'm a Billy fucking badass. I mean, literally, I just wade into battles, just like right in the middle of everybody. I am Odin. And unfortunately, a lot of our players are playing these video games, and they're getting used to rapid progression. Now it's up to us as storytellers, GMs, DMs, masters of ceremonies, mothers, whatever title that you have, to compensate. Unfortunately, the experience system of the past is slowly dying. We have to start adapting to this new modern world. Got to remember, the experience system of D&D was crafted, back in the 1970s, I think was when D&D came out. And not much has changed. Not much has changed. White Wolf came out in the early 90s. At that point, we still got Road Rash is one of the video games of the time. It's not these immersive stories that take leveling and all that stuff and calculate statistics. It's really just, this is your character. Tomb Raider didn't have levels. When you hit level 2, you couldn't jump higher. When after playing 50 hours, you couldn't jump any higher than you could when you started the game. But now we see players that have never had to be patient with experience. They've seen their characters, and it goes on with app games. How do I map? Don't get me started on World of Warcraft. All I'm going to do is go kill 9,000 boars at 1 experience apiece, and I'll be level 10 by the end of the evening. I'm just going to crank it out. So experience in itself and character progression has to evolve into a more holistic approach. Am I saying do away with, how much experience you have? No, absolutely. Am I saying start looking at it? Yeah.
You need gates to keep your players in check and to keep your players desiring something more in the game. So, one of the things that you're saying, again, which is a good point, and this is the struggle with a tabletop RPG versus like an action RPG a la Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Or, you have an MMORPG, which is most of the fun stuff in those games are gated behind leveling and gear. So in order to become a Billy Badass and go take out the strongest monsters in D&D, you need levels and gear. That's just the truth of it. If you want to take out super strong monsters and be super strong in White Wolf, you need levels. The gear is less dependent in White Wolf because it's not a gear system. But it is a system based upon levels and getting powers. And so, that's the gate that you have there to be able to do the really cool shit in White Wolf. And I think all other systems have some form of that there. And so I think you have to understand. So there's 2 things that you can do. Jared's talking about evolving. You can go ahead and evolve and become closer to what the modern MMORPG is. Or you can evolve and become, where the progression is much faster, perhaps. You can modify and homebrew. My general advice is, if you're just starting out, play it as it is. Okay? Play it straight, because you don't understand the complexities behind giving people things early. And also, it's new to you. The first time that you played, if you played World of Warcraft, the first time you played World of Warcraft, it was a fun experience. It was an experience of leveling up and getting towards that end.
Not in my opinion.
Okay, I never played World of Warcraft either, but
it sucked. I hate it.
I've played other MMORPGs, and the experience of learning the game was fun. Okay, learning the intricacies of the game and building up that power was fun. Okay, and but when you look at a game like, and name any open world action RPG, the experience of building up to a point is fun, and then you become the Billy Badass that can walk around and do everything in the game. Okay, which is what you have there with the Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So you don't want that experience to be translated necessarily into your game, because you always want there to be challenge. If there is no challenge, the game is basically done. You have nowhere else to go with your character. You have nowhere else to progress to. Once you have the power, you let the players enjoy it for a minute, and then you say, okay, we're done. Unless, that's the type of table that you run, which is a purely power gaming game. But this is Level Up Your Gaming podcast. We're trying to get to the point of you're always striving to obtain something. So, the first time that we ever played in Elders, when we walked our characters up from level 1 to level 5, because it's a 5-level system, basically, and we learned and earned all those powers. And we did it in Mage. Started at level 1, walked up to level 5. Okay? It was a long, arduous process to get there. Once you were there, though, you were extremely strong and powerful. And there was no more time to kind of play this. There wouldn't have been enough challenges for you to throw at us at that power level. I feel like I feel that the game would have become very stale very quick, which is what ends up happening when I play an open world game. You get super powerful, and then the game becomes very stale very quick. And so, in my opinion, because you're so strong at parts that, the scaling doesn't match to you. So there is one solution: is if you want to get the power levels up quick, you need to have played through it once to understand how powerful the top of the line is. So you can then create and homebrew things that are strong enough and challenging enough for a group that's that powerful. The other thing that I think is interesting here is not just the adaptation to that, because I think the natural adaptation, if you're just trying to adjust the scaling of power, or if you're going to allow people to take powers early, is that you just need to create, challenges that scale along with that. I think that's the first creation. So that's two solutions right there. And the other one here is that what you're ultimately trying to do, and what I think makes for a better game, and I'm not saying this because I listened to another podcast called Gaming and BS, and somebody wrote in and said the people always rail upon not using the meta, or the best solution for a character when the most optimal leveling strategy for a character, and say, well, it makes for a better role-playing character. And I agree that it is true. It does make for a better role-playing character, because if you're playing a game of spies and then you're like, I gotta get Fireball level 39 because Fireball level 39 is the best optimal situation, it doesn't fit with the game of spies. Okay? It might be more optimal, but it doesn't fit with what you're trying to do. And if you were actually leveling up the character and progressing the character based upon the cues the GM has given you, you would learn and level up skills that match the context of the game. Okay? Not that you would learn and level up skills that make for the most optimal character. And I think that that's an important distinction there, because I disagree with that point. And I don't necessarily think it makes you a better role player to pick those skills. I just think it's a more fun experience if everybody at your table does try and match, the learned lessons in the game to what they're trying to progress into. If you are able to do that as a table, okay, and again, it only works if the whole table's committed to that conundrum, because otherwise you end up with one person who's going to be level 37 Fireball and everybody else is pathetically weak and has all these weird random skills that don't do anything. But what you want to try to do is you want to try to avoid, if you can get everybody on board to say, we're going to level up with how the progression of the game works, meaning that the GM's doing the spy thing now, so we're learning spy skills now, but then the game shifts into this other thing, and so we're learning these other skills. The challenge is always there, because now I'm constantly being challenged by the new thing that the GM has put in front of me, and I'm challenged by the limitations of what my character doesn't know and is starting to learn. Okay? And I think that makes for an ultimately more fun experience as we have done it more recently. In the past, again, it was get level 37 Fireball. When I was that Galliard, I wanted to get the thing that created the illusion dragon that could destroy everything. Okay? It was super cool. Don't get me wrong. Very, very cool. But at the same time, once I got it, it was like, Jared has to then throw like a godly thing at me to make this like even remotely challenging. And that's the and if you have one person who would be more interested in doing this kind of progression level where GM presents problem A, I learn the skills, we get better at the skills, and now we're able to meet the threat level or the challenge that you've put in front of us. Again, the person who's got the illusion dragon is fucking everything up, okay? Because he really is. So again, the statement is true only to the effect that if your entire table is not committed to it, then it won't be true. But if your table is committed to trying something that's less optimal, you will find a lot of interesting, fun things that kind of spark out of the game itself. You also find interesting, fun ways that your GM will tilt the game in your favor because of how it works. You'll start using skills that you never used. You'll start using powers that you've never used. Okay? Like, it makes for just a very different game, and you start going like, whoa, okay, so this is what it could be. What will the next challenge be, and what will I learn? So, like, one of the core tenets that I've changed in our games, because they're episodic, is I don't spend experience until after the episode's over. Meaning I can't fill in the gaps of what I don't know until after the episode's over. But maybe from the learned lessons that I had in this last sessions or whatever, those will translate into something that will help me in a future session. So again, it helps, it keeps you from destroying spotlight moments for other characters, and it also gives you a natural path of progression, which is I'm not just leveling things up to level them up and become super strong. I'm leveling them up because I did actually learn them in the event or the situation that we were in. Anyways, I just rambled out a bunch of stuff there, but
well, no, it's absolutely what I agree with. So one of the things that Aaron was talking about is essentially experience by consent. Let's take okay. I know there's this class called a Shadow Dancer in D&D. I don't know if actual dancing is involved, but I'm assuming. Okay, there's probably no dancing involved. It's probably some knife throwing bullshit. I don't know. Here's my thing. Really, when experience is spent, it should be discussed with the storyteller. And the storyteller should give consent to that experience being spent in that way. Because essentially what Aaron's talking about in the real world, you know, we drive to work every day. I work on computers every day. I do project management. My skills are rapidly growing. Now, let's say the divine storyteller God is assigning me one experience, right? Every day that I go. So for a month, there I am working on computer stuff, being a good project manager. I come home. It's time for me to spend my experience. I spend it in, I don't know, repair.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
You know, like God's gonna look at me like, what? you didn't learn any repair. And I'm like, well, I
Gave
did
you
now.
experience.
You gave me experience. I'm spending it on repair because that's what I want. I don't want to be good at project management and computer technology. I want to be good at fixing my car. And the thing is there's with D&D, it used to be just you'd go up your system and you go up your class, and then you can multi-class and all sorts of just head bursting bullshit. Um, I'm sorry, D&D players. I that
D
whole
and D is a very
progression system
different
just
system from
fucking
this,
kills me.
especially because in
Um,
5e, there you don't really have any skills behind what you have, so it's kind of a weird thing. But um, a good example of this would be if like you ever want to respec your character, which they did introduce in the new Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. In order to do that, you need to give an explanation as to how you went about learning these new skills or becoming this other class.
there
Okay?
you go. And my thing is a lot of time that characters or players will tell you, "Well, I'm learning it in my off time." Um, so typically, most sessions end, and the next one starts where the last one ended. What downtime did you have to in the middle of a fucking forest to learn animal husbandry? Where you're taking the two horses in the middle of the night and being like, kiss, kiss. I mean, and God forbid one of the other characters finds you, because I'd be looking at you, seeing you with two horses going, kiss. Like, I'd be like, oh my God, he's fucking lost it. We're dropping him off at the next cleric. Um, next cleric we see, you're getting your head checked, friend. Um, or they learn these excessive skills like spot. I'm just out there in the forest at midnight while everyone's sleeping, just going, look for shits, look for shits, look for shits. You know, but if it's naturally occurring in the game, we're using spot a lot. Damn, this storyteller's always being like, run me a spot check. You look at combat veterans coming back from hell, even World War II, World War One. You learn to get more aware. You learn to have more situational awareness in combat zone. You simply do. You learn how to have eyes in the back of your head, how to use your senses, to listen, to look, to smell. Vietnam, people started being able to know the smell of the enemy's cooking because the jungle was so thick. So you could identify if you were near a camp. So that's where that spot check starts to grow naturally. If someone goes, Jared, I'm getting to level 5. I'm gonna buy, one rank of stealth. Well, yeah, we've been in the jungle a long time. One rank of spot. Yeah, we've been in that jungle a long time. And one rank of animal husbandry. The storyteller has to have the courage, diplomacy, and je ne sais quoi. The Constitution to say no animal husbandry. But I really want to start breeding my own horses. Then have your character take a 6-month hiatus and go work on a ranch. You ain't learning that in the middle of the jungle. Going
kiss,
kiss. Like, I'm sorry, I grew up in rural America. All right, I don't know shit about animal husbandry. I don't know fuck all. Just because I was even born near it, it's a matter of engaging with that skill, and skills should not be allowed unless they're engaged in. And that's one of the things is that D&D also assumes as you go up in level, you get certain skills. And that's what I don't know, because I played 3.5 or 3 or whatever it was. I don't remember.
Three is very much like the Star Wars one, where you've got all the skills in the tree, and you've got like a bunch of skills, and if you don't specialize, you suck. And if you do,
yes, that one.
And if you do try to be a jack of all trades, you suck just as bad because you're a jack of all trades.
Like I need a fucking feat to be two-handed shooting. Can't I just two-hand shoot and suck at it and learn to get better? I'm gonna buy a goddamn feat. I'm not gonna wait till I'm level 45 to buy that goddamn feat because I didn't buy the precursor feat, which is close quarter shooting.
Again, what I'm saying here might not resonate as much in the D&D world because the leveling up system, especially in like 5e, is very different. In on the other hand, in like the world of like the White Wolf and like 7th Sea, which is something I've been playing, all the skills are on the sheet, and like it makes sense as you learn different skills going through it. Like they all translate into like, if you have this skill at this level, this is sort of what it means in the real world. And so like
Right.
it's easier in that regard to be like, you know, perception, for example, which is a trait in White Wolf, you know, to have an additional dot in perception, you know, and I level that up. I've got to have, you know, some explanation for why that might occur in D&D, especially in like 5e. As you go up in level, there isn't something quite like that. It's like you get an additional magic piece here, and you get some additional bonuses to your like. It's very streamlined in like, if you are this type of if you are this character, you're probably going to level up in a fairly similar fashion, besides like your spell choices, to how anybody else who would be playing that character is going to level up. Like there's not actually a lot of variance in that, I would say, in that regard.
That is bullshit.
But in like Star Wars, for example, like the Star Wars D20 game, that is a game that is like, I think it was based on D&D 3, right, or whatever one became the open source D&D, where you've got a million skills, and you know the goal is to specialize really hard into a couple of them. Okay, like that makes you like really, really good in the game. But you know, to get a couple extra skills here and there, and again, it's also based upon a level progression too. It's hard to say like, well, why? How the hell are you still getting so good at piloting? We never pilot a damn ship, but your pilot keeps going up. Like it's hard to give that to somebody, you know, but you need to do it because of how the progression of the game is supposed to work. It's a conundrum there, because that's a different system, and it doesn't necessarily translate here. And so what you're probably hearing us ramble about, you might go, well, that just doesn't work for my system, and it might not. But
then take control of your system.
But if you've been playing the system, again, this is the argument between, you know, really knowing a system and then like system mastery. If you have system mastery, you can take what we're giving you here, and you can translate that into progression and leveling up. Oh, looked like you're going to sneeze there. But yeah, again, that's the key, is that you want to try to learn the system well enough that you could, if you really like this system, do something different with it. So you could tell something different. So it's either try a brand new system, or do something different with the one that you're working with, and figure out a different way to kind of give progression and leveling up and all this stuff make sense. Do you want to have a straight skill system? I think AD&D 1, there are no skills in AD&D 1, but I think you learn skills by doing things. Gary, maybe you can correct us on this phenomenon here, but that actually makes a lot of sense, which is, I'm going to do X Like, I'm going to try my hand at larceny here, and like now I have a skill for larceny. Okay, I suck at it to begin with, but I can build that thing up. Like, I've got a place to go with it. And so, again, that's just my thought. And again, you could do different things. Do you have to necessarily follow the 20 leveling system? No. Take mastery into your own hands. Figure out a way that you can give players. Maybe those are the capstone levels. Okay. Meaning, like, as I actually hit the next level, I get what the book says I get. But also, there might be some additional stuff between it. I don't know. Figure it out. Like,
I kind of like that.
Sorry, that's not nice of me to say. Figure it out. But I don't know. I don't know the system well enough to know the sort of mastery that would be involved in. Could I give you like your level 1.2, and so you get this kind of stuff? Like, you're learning these new things. I don't know.
Yeah, and if we were talking White Wolf, which Aaron and I know very, very well, it's much more simple. We ourselves have modified how much things cost, and we've developed certain aspects, and with White Wolf it's so much easier. You get an experience. It's because you got 5 dots. Let's say you start off at 1 dot. It's 3 experience to get your next dot. No, 3 experience to get your first dot. Then 2 times the level for every dot thereafter. It's pretty simple. If you want to slow down progression, you times it by 3. If you want to increase progression, just be like it is the level that it's at. Then you're going faster, or you can award more experience at the end of your sessions. That increases or decreases. You can be a stickler or stickler and be like, you get 2 experience per session. That's it. I'm tired of this stuff. You get 2. And through it, I mean, like, literally, it's very easy to keep track of, like, okay, I've given out this much experience. This is where my player levels should be. I should make sure all of my NPCs have this much experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to do it.
I will tell you this.
What?
In White Wolf, I will tell you this. Having your NPCs equal to your characters in White Wolf will probably end up in getting them murked, okay? Because White Wolf, I'm telling you, Aaron said it in a podcast not too long ago. He had a guy with like 3 dice who was kicking our ass, just up and down the block.
Your character is throwing 7 dice pools, 8 dice pools. I got 3 dice, and like, again, if I hit all 3 and you have a bad roll, guess what? Like, that's pooping your Cheerios right there, okay?
You're about to have a bad time.
You're about to have a bad time, and I was destroying you with that character. And,
yes, you were.
And if you have somebody who's got a low attack rating in that game, and you get low attack dice pool, and you hit somebody with a gun, guns are the great equalizer in White Wolf. Okay.
God made all men. Mr. Colt made all men equal.
Yeah. Once I hit you, it's bad. It's a bad day for you. But in White Wolf, there is, and again, I'm trying to express, our feelings of how to progress a character through the lens of White Wolf, because that's what we do the most. But that progression through White Wolf, again, the dots are very easily translated. It is a game that's more closely connected to the real world setting. So again, you're in a fantasy setting in D&D. This is like modern setting. It's very different. Okay?
I wouldn't say that, because D&D or White Wolf, I can slap that in the old timey. Easily.
But we could
drive. You got riding. Instead of repair, you got animal husbandry.
But this is what you're missing though with that, Jared. This is what you're missing with that. Is that if you went low fantasy, that works. Okay? But if you went high fantasy, you'd have to add some other, like, you'd have to add like mage powers to like just a bunch of random other people.
You know what that sounds like? A good time homebrewing.
But anyways, it's just some food for thought. I don't know. Do you have anything else?
I keep track of how much experience overall. I do it in every game. I make little tick marks on a sheet that tells me how much experience I've doled out to. both Brian and Aaron in every game, just so I keep a good record of it. It's funny. Back in the day, I used to do this as like an anti-cheating method. I'm pretty confident none of my players ever added more slashes to their sheet, ever. I do it now just because I want to know how much experience I've given out. So when I make a really menacing villain that I want them to really have a challenge with, I know how much experience I should give that villain to crank him up a notch.
But here's your problem. Brian's sitting on, for everybody who's listening to this and going like, this would just never work. Like, our players would flagrantly abuse this and blah, blah, blah. Brian is sitting on like 300 experience right now.
Yeah, Brian
could max out his character straight up.
Every dot.
Just about every dot on the sheet. And he could just be throwing 10 dice pools, 10 dice pools, 10 dice pools. He could be world-renowned everything in the game. He doesn't. He doesn't do it because he doesn't see a need to progress the character into skills that have no meaning to the character today. Okay? And like that's how Brian has chosen to go about character progression for the character. Doesn't mean you have to do that, but I'm just saying, if you learn and if the challenge is commensurate with the characters, then it's almost an argument for just not having the XP altogether at this point.
Actually, that was kind of my argument in the beginning. Like, throw out XP altogether. There is the possibility of just saying, you know what? Your character at the end of the session did a really great job on all that spotting. I feel like they've been more inclined. You know what? This whole group has spent 2 months in a jungle. Let's raise everyone's spot by 1.
That would be a very interesting change to a D&D system. Like
it would be, and the thing that I would caution against is because you got to remember, if you don't make sure everyone gets something, somebody's going to feel left out, and then they're going to be pissed. So you got to remember, when you bring presents for everyone.
That would be marrying the concept of better character creation and then chop off experience. I'm going to give you the times that you get to level things up and kind of give you what you get. And again, treat it fairly. If you have better character creation, you've got spotlights for everyone. Everyone kind of gets to have their own little flavor of what they get as they go through the system. That'd actually be very interesting. I think that could be very cool in a long fantasy setting. Somebody who wants to be more bold and homebrew that sort of thing, let me know. But I think that could be a very interesting power progression, which is like you found the tome of eternal darkness and you learn the spell darkness. Like,
wow, that was creative.
I know.
You find the tome of eternal darkness. I mean, that would make sense that would be the spell on like page 1.
Yes.
Like darkness, page 1. It's the tome of eternal darkness. We don't get into Enter the Void of Al Shagah.
Which actually, I guess if we go into like Chris's, sorry, this is the last point. You go into Chris's thing about the Cortex Prime system. This sort of meshes with the Cortex Prime system very well, which is you learn the skills sort of based upon what you're doing in the game. Now it does get rid of a little bit of the player agency in choosing the skills, but
it does.
What you could do is you could give a little bit of you give them a little bit of flavor in there. Well, hey, you get to choose a new skill right now, and as long as it's related to something that we've done, or you get to choose a new spell as long as it's related to something we've done, or something that you've been studying. Go for it. So you could still get to level 37 Fireball. But
exactly, because you're like, every time that we take a break, I'm studying my Fireball.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Level 37's up. You're on your way.
Well, anyways, that's just some musing on character progression there. You got anything else, Jared?
Nope, that's it for me.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap us up for this week. Give us your thoughts on how you like to change things, homebrew things for character progression, how you've maybe tried to evolve your players in character progression, or not. Maybe you disagree completely, and you think this is totally a bunch of BS. But let us know. Levelupyourgamingpodcast at gmail.com or facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. We are also on YouTube. So
if you smash that like button, I'll give you 2 XP.
There you go. 2 free XP if you smash the like button. And then also, subscribe to the podcast if you're not already, or go back and listen to the rest of it. Recommend it to a friend. We do appreciate it. But that's going to wrap us up for the week. So for Jared, I'm Aaron. Have a great week, everyone.
Have a great week, everyone.